the Shock Master!
All right.
The Shock Master!
I told you. Oh, God.
You just gotta keep living, man. L-I-V-I-N.
The WWF brings up the Flag Championship back.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages.
It's showtime.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of P3 Radio. I'm Richard Mullican, joined by my co-host and best friend, Josh Briley. Say hey, Josh.
What's up, everybody? I am so excited to be here tonight. We have a very, very special guest.
Yeah, that music should give it away, right?
I hope so.
I mean, the music right there is the music from our childhood. It's the music from a lot of people's childhood. It's the theme for the Midnight Express.
Theme of one of the greatest wrestlers to ever be inside of a wrestling ring.
This episode is going to be dedicated to, like Josh said, one of the best wrestlers, one of the most underrated wrestlers, and he should be in the Hall of Fame right now. Him and his tag team partners and manager. And that is none other than the Midnight Express's own beautiful Bobby Eaton.
He was one of the wrestlers that could literally get by with just his work alone. He never really had to say much.
No.
Because everything that he did, it was in the ring.
Right. I mean, he was probably by far one of the best workers in the business. He was one of those classic, you don't have to talk much. You let your ring work do your talking, and it probably talked louder than anybody else's in many years. He's probably still one of the most underrated people, and he's got to be inducted into the Hall of Fame pretty soon, you would think.
Well, like I said, I mean, I'm going to tell you, I did the Alabama Jam way more than I ever did the Stone Cold Stunner or anything growing up, off of the couch or on a wrestling buddy or whatever.
If you just look at his resume, I mean, it just screams Hall of Famer. His tag team partners included Steven Regal, Arn Anderson, Stan Lane, Dennis Condrey. He had
Coco Beware, who is a Hall of Famer.
He's one of the only people in the business that's had both Paulie Dangerously and Jim Cornette as his managers.
That's pretty hard to beat.
I mean, two future Hall of Famers there as well, you would think.
I mean, at some point, both of them are going to be in like Flynn.
This week's show is all about beautiful Bobby Eaton. We're going to talk to his most recent tag team partner, a part of Midnight Gold, a guy by the name of the Golden Boy, Greg Anthony. We're also going to talk to one of his managers and best friends, Brian Thompson, get some stories from both those guys. And we're also going to talk to the one and only beautiful Bobby Eaton himself.
The man himself. It should be a good one.
We're hoping that you're going to stay tuned and be entertained by us here at P3 Radio after this commercial break.
January 6th, 2018 at the Carl Perkins Civic Center. Get ready for an elegant evening that packs a punch when the second annual Black Tie and Boxing, the Fight for a Cure, comes back to Jackson. You won't want to miss out on this great night benefiting the JDRF. For ticket information, go to blacktieandboxing.com/tickets or blacktieandboxing.com. Black Tie and Boxing, January 6, 2018 at the Carl Perkins Civic Center, Jackson, Tennessee. It's fight time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, join us on P3 Radio Hotline right now. Not only a promoter, he's been a booker, he's been a promoter, he's been a wrestler, he's been a heavyweight champion, and he's also been, I think, what would be Bobby Eaton's last tag team partner. It's none other than the Golden Boy, Greg Anthony. He's also a good friend of mine. So, Greg, how's it going, man?
Rock and rolling, man. You doing all right?
Oh, doing great, man. Last week, we got the opportunity to interview Bobby Eaton. Instead of just making it an interview show, we were going to make it kind of like a tribute show, and we thought, what better way to make it a tribute show than to interview the guy that was teaming up with him the last time he stepped into the ring. So what got you guys paired up?
Well, I mean, Bobby was on the downward end of wrestling in ring, when we got paired up, and that was kind of the deal. He, instead of Bobby Eaton going out there at 53 years old or however old he was there and having to wrestle singles matches for 10, 15 minutes, it was much easier for him, obviously, to work tag matches. And the opportunity came about. He was moving to roundabout this area. He was going to be moving to Northwest Arkansas, and he was looking for a tag team partner. Brian Thompson was looking for a tag team partner for him to pair up with and kind of, give that young guy the rub and give Bobby an opportunity to have bookings where he could actually be in the main events and work and stuff like that. And it was kind of a win-win for everybody.
Did you mark out at all when you got the call that Bobby Eaton was going to be your tag team partner? I mean, I know me, I'm a different person. I probably would have been like giddy and like, oh no, what? So was there any kind of like butterflies at first, or were you just like, yeah, this is going to be awesome, let's go?
A little bit of both. I mean, obviously, like Bobby legitimately, was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up.
Right.
You understand? Like I was always very drawn to the seamless Southern heels. I didn't have a name for that yet, but when I was younger, it was him and it was Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard and Ric Flair and it was all the Ted DiBiase. It was that certain type of guy.
Right.
And that's the matches that I really loved and really gravitated to. So Bobby legitimately was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. So obviously when I got the opportunity, it was a thing too where I had just started being the best of the best. I was putting myself over as the best of the best. I was the heavyweight champion. They finally gave me an opportunity to be not just a feature part of the show, but actually be the guy, the heel on the show and stuff like that. So I'd done that for about a year, and then this opportunity came up with Bobby, and I was like, well, I can always go back to being the best of the best. I can always go back to being the singles guy. How many times do you get the opportunity to tag with Bobby Eaton?
Right.
It's at the end of the day, no matter what you accomplish, you're a wrestling fan.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm a huge wrestling fan, so yeah, that was obviously a mark that moment.
How many dates would you say y'all probably worked together?
We did a couple of bookings a month probably, and I actually took, because I wanted people to look at us as a legitimate tag team and not just, well, there's Bobby Eaton and there's Greg Anthony. We can get Greg Anthony by himself anytime. So I would actually take less bookings. Like I quit working like a local stuff around Dyersburg and Ripley and things like that because I wanted them to book us as the tag team.
Right.
And basically what happened was people actually started booking us, the team, as a name. Like you would book a Jerry Lawler or a Billy Gunn or a Buff Bagwell or something like that. Right. They would book Midnight Gold as their name for their big events. And we would come in there and we would be able to have, main event tag team matches with whoever they wanted us to work with. And we probably did a couple bookings a month. So probably Brian Thompson actually has every date, every finish, everything of Midnight Gold. But
right.
I'm not sure exactly how many matches, but Bobby was just one of those guys. And the thing that I really learned from Bobby was, because that was really the first exposure that I got like that. Like Greg Anthony's tagging with Bobby Eaton, and then people go, "Who's this Greg Anthony guy?" And then that's when people start really looking me up and trying to figure out about me.
Yeah, it kind of puts you on the map a little bit more.
Yeah, it put me on, like I was in Meltzer's thing, when he reported about it, stuff like that. And, that I actually met Bobby Eaton. I met Matt Riviera because of this whole deal too. I mean, it was just one thing after another. So it really set me on that course. Yeah, and something that a lot of people don't realize, and I may have told you personally before, but the entire time that Midnight Gold was a tag team, I never took the pin. Bobby Eaton would not let me get pinned.
Oh, wow.
So anytime they wanted to beat Midnight Gold, and they said, well, can we beat Bobby? Can we beat Greg? He would go, no, we're not beating Greg. We're beating me.
Wow.
And that happened.
That's
yeah,
impressive.
I mean, that was a big deal. I mean, a lot of those companies, sometimes they were afraid to ask Bobby to go under. And they thought that the deal with the tag team was that I was there to get beat. I was there to be the drummer boy, and it actually wasn't that way at all. He said, beat me. It's not going to hurt me at all. This is for you. This is for you to get the rub, and you're helping me out. So,
right.
And I'll pick him.
Not down talking any of the legends around this area, but I think we all know when push comes to shove, most times the legend's not taking the pin. The legend's not going to put you over. He's going to relive his days from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and you're going to do the work. You're going to be the one that gets, squashed or whatever, and that legend's going to come out looking like $1 million. He took the direct opposite of that, which I think is smart, because it's also showing that, you know, you're an equal. You're an equal in this, and not only because you're not Bobby Eaton, you're Greg Anthony, but he's like, well, I'm invincible. I'm Bobby Eaton. You know, I'm bulletproof. If I get beat, whatever. And it just makes you look even better. I think that's brilliant, and it's something that more legends around here probably need to do.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, it meant more to everybody. Mm-hmm. It meant more to me, obviously, not getting beat, but it also meant so much more to the guys he put over. You know, I mean, if they beat me, you know, big deal. You know, they pin Greg Anthony. But if they beat Bobby Eaton,
right.
You know what I mean? He understand that part of it, too. He knew that it was just good business for everybody. And like you said, there's a lot of guys, and it's not just this area, but it tends to be prevalent in the Memphis area. There's a lot of guys that, you know, from a certain time period that don't believe their own hype. And they're not trying to give back to anybody. They're trying to hold on to, even though someone gave to them, they're not willing to give to anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, so that's been an issue.
And to kind of put you over a little bit here, too, as a guy that wrestled in tag teams for most of his career, one thing I will say is you can tell you're all in, because the one thing that is the hardest thing to erase is the stigma of being a tag team wrestler. And I would dare say Bobby fell into that as well, because as good as he was singles, it seems like everybody was trying to put him in a tag team. To kind of put you over a little bit here, I mean, you were all in. If you're trying to intentionally book yourself as a tag team wrestler and knowing that stigma is hard to erase, that's pretty gutsy. That's an all-in move, and a lot of people wouldn't see that.
Yeah. Well, I did it a couple times. I mean, me and Riviera team too. I mean, I was lucky enough to have, you know, two really, really great tag team partners in Bobby Eaton and Matt Riviera, because at both time periods, I think that we were the best tag teams going, Midnight Gold and the Empire.
Right.
So, and I never caught the tag team stigma, I guess. You know, I think a lot of people they realized that, yeah, I was all in this tag team, but at the end of the day, I was still the Golden Boy Greg Anthony.
Gotcha. Do you have any road stories that would reflect something that he did was kind, or maybe even something that he did that was funny, that was, you know, a little bit like a rib, or maybe unintentionally? Yeah,
there's so many. I mean, one of my favorite things, and I've told this story to my students and things like that before, is, you know, Bobby is so, one of his most memorable things is the scaffold matches.
Right.
And it seems like every town we went to, there would always be that guy that was, you know, my age or older, that had that gleam in his eye, would come up to Bobby and be like, "Hey, Bobby, I just so glad to meet you, and, you know, I just want to tell you how much, man, those scaffold matches you had were awesome. What were they like?" And, you know, they would sit there on bated breath waiting for Bobby to talk to him, and Bobby would just go, "They sucked." And just kind of, and you could see the guy, you know, kind of crumble a little bit on some of it. What people don't understand is, like, people see Starrcade and the Skywalkers and things like that, and they see those scaffold matches, and they're like, "Oh, this is so awesome. I remember that so much." But what they don't understand is Bobby and all those guys had to do that on the loop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't just do one scaffold match. They did like 8 that week. But he literally is, like, you know, everyone, like you said, everyone's in agreement. Bobby Eaton is the nicest guy in the business. And he's not just the nicest guy in the business. He may be the nicest person I've ever met, period.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he would literally give anyone the shirt off his back if he just met them. You know, if they needed it and he had it, he would give it to them. You know, he carries, Bobby's notorious for carrying around, you know, just like like those blue Walmart bags that you give the store now. Yeah. He's notorious for carrying around like a bag similar to that, and it'll just have, it'll have everything in it. It's like the endless bag. You know, you could go up to Bobby and be like, "Hey, you got some chopsticks in there?" And he may have some fucking chopsticks. You know, I mean, it was almost a rib at one point to see if you could come up and ask him for something he didn't, you know, and see if he had it or not. And if you were able to stump the bag, I guess you won. But yeah, it always had something. I mean, he would just be like, "Hey, I got an extra burger here. You want a burger?" And I'd be like, "Sure." And he'd give me a burger. And
yeah.
You know?
Just the niceness of this man. Like you said, he might be the nicest man to ever walk the earth.
Yeah, I mean, and see that, and that,
I guess next to Jesus. Let's just go there. We won't be sacrilegious.
Well, I've never met Jesus, but I mean,
right.
People that I've met, Bobby Eaton would be the guy.
Yeah. Well, man, I tell you what, we're going to have you back on. I mean, that's a given. We're just trying to schedule times, get Christmas out of the way. We're still working on this house that we're trying to get in. Once we get into that, we'll have a studio. It'll be a 2-person studio, so we'll still have to do call-ins and stuff like that. But we'll have a production area, so it'll be a lot easier to get more guests in and get them interviewed. So we're definitely going to have you back. But what you got going on, man? What's anything coming up? Any shows you like to promote?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we're Pro Wrestling Mid-South. We do every Friday night in Ripley, Tennessee, bell time 8:00, and we do every Saturday night in Dyersburg, bell time 7:30. And then there's a really big show in Arkansas, Maumelle, Arkansas, for CWA, Championship Wrestling of Arkansas. It's going to be January 13th. It's going to have Jerry Lawler versus Matt Riviera. It's going to have Tim Storm versus Carlito. And I'm actually making my return to Arkansas after my heart surgery and all that. So this is my first time back in Arkansas with that. And, man, just rocking and rolling, living the dream, as I say. Facebook, the Golden Boy Greg Anthony. You can find me on there. On Twitter, I'm at Golden Boy Greg. As far as websites go, just go to ProWrestlingMidSouth.com, and you can see all the stuff going on with us there.
He's a good friend of mine, the Golden Boy Greg Anthony. Thank you so much, my friend, for being a part of P3 Radio today.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Don't fit. I'm going to have to buy new clothes.
Don't drive to the mall. Take a trip down to 51 South Creek Drive in Jackson. See Matt Hoover and the gang at Maximum Health and Fitness. They will not only whip you back into shape, they will keep you in the clothes that you already own.
Well, what are my options? Do I have a way to just kind of dip my toe in?
Mention this podcast and you will receive a free trial membership.
Well, that's it. Enough is enough. I'm heading there right now.
Maximum Health and Fitness, 51 South Creek Drive in Jackson.
Ladies and gentlemen, right now on the P3 hotline, we're joined by beautiful Bobby Eaton. Bobby, how's it going, my friend?
Good. How you doing, pal? Thanks for having me.
Well, we are doing great. Me and Josh are excited to have you on the phone with us to talk to you here on P3 Radio. We just got a couple of questions, and we're going to throw those at you here, and we'll try not to hold you up too long.
Okay, that's fine.
What was it like being trained by Tojo Yamamoto?
It was a real, he's a real strict trainer, and of course he was feared about everybody, a lot of, they believed his gimmick,
Exactly.
So yeah, it was real good. I went into a full-fledged thinking that it was for real.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And did you feel bad when you found out it kind of was real?
No, not really. I was kind of relieved a little bit,
Yeah, I always tell people when they ask me, they say, wasn't that all fake? And I was, in the business for about 12 years, and I look at people and I go, I wish it was fake. My back hurts every day, my knees.
I got you. Same here.
Question now, I'm assuming since you started so young, you were a fan of the business. Who was some of your favorites to watch when you were growing up?
Guys like Jackie Fargo, Berlin Rossi, of course Tojo. I had a bunch of favorites, I had a bunch of them.
Who would you say, like, early on in your career were some of the guys that really helped you out? Just, whether it be telling you really things that you needed to know or just whatever helps you.
Well, one of the guys for sure was Tojo Yamamoto, He was a big influence on me, and he kind of just took me in with him, I was already putting the ring up anyway,
You started putting the ring up when in high school or middle school maybe?
Yeah, something like that. I think maybe middle school probably.
You're one of the people that has one of the best punches in the business. That right hand was a thing of beauty.
Right.
Is that something you had to work on, or was that something that just came naturally to you?
I kind of stole it from somebody. I'm not for sure who. But I mean, there's a bunch of ways people throw punches. I always stomp sometimes when you stomp my foot or whatever, or I could probably punch you without killing you without stomping,
You ever catch anybody with it?
A few times, yeah. A few times. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry for whoever it was I've got.
Well, I've always heard the stories about, people telling, like Dick Murdoch, he would hang a pie plate in a door facing or something and just practice for hours on end. Or Terry Funk would practice, with a nail hanging out of the wall, I guess just the timing or whatever.
Well, Dick Murdoch had one of the better punches then, and you wouldn't even feel him,
Right.
So,
he was a wizard for sure. Did you like working for Nick Gublis early on?
Yeah, well, that's the only thing I knew. I knew by working with him, and the payoffs wasn't great, you know.
Did you
I was
have
learning,
like
you know.
a personal relationship with Nick, or was it just strictly
Yeah,
business?
I say I did. Yeah, I was with him for my first 3 or 4 years. I think it was first 3 years. I'm not for sure, to be honest with you.
I know they
No,
paired you with he paired you with his son George, and y'all were the
Yeah,
jet set early on. You have any good memories from working with George?
Well, I mean, I always liked George. I always got along with him. You know, I knew the situation he was in.
Right.
You know, his dad wants to give him a big push, and they wanted me to be his partner. And you know, it was a good thing for me. You know,
Right.
I guess it was. I learned how to work with a lot of guys.
Did you get any heat for being his partner and kind of being by his side?
I never was told about it, but I could have got heat.
Yeah.
You know.
Speaking of which, well, we said that you started when you were younger. Your first match, did you go into it? Were you smartened up going in? Did you know it was a work then, or what's some memories from your first match that you can?
I can't really remember if I was real smart to it or not, you know. But I've been around putting the ring up, and I knew some of the guys, and I've been practicing in the ring for quite a while, you know, and I knew all of the guys. Nobody ever told me anything. You know, I substituted for a guy one night, and they told me this and that, and that's what I did.
You were around for the promotional wars between Goulas and Jerry Jarrett. How was it there at the end before, I guess, Nick closed up shop? I mean, was it kind of doom and gloom, or?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I was there when it first broke up. The group first broke up, but I wasn't there when it had broke up altogether. But Antonio was stayed with Nick, and I was with Nick, and I wasn't making $1 million anyway. No. So I didn't know what I was supposed to be making. Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like, I guess, all you've ever known, then you wouldn't know anything else.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Did you favor working more for Jerry Jarrett? You know, because I know after Nick closed up, you went to work for Jarrett with Coco and all that. But did you favor working for Jerry Jarrett more, or say like a Bill Watts? Who would you like working for more?
Well, working for Jerry Jarrett was real good too, you know, and working for Bill Watts. I also like working for Nick because I didn't know nothing else. I didn't know, you know, what was good payoffs, what wasn't good payoffs.
Right.
Okay.
Hulk Hogan has been said that some of his back problems come from doing that leg drop that he did for over the years. Now, you had probably one of the greatest finishing moves. Now, as a kid, I used to wrestle these little wrestling buddies, and outside, and I would jump off of my friend's swing set to do the Alabama Jam. This is somebody growing up as a Tennessee fan that hated anything Alabama, but you kind of converted me on the Alabama Jam. One of the greatest moves I saw as a kid, I thought was just so over with me. Was that something that you've had any kind of repercussions from doing so many years? Did you have any health problems from that?
No, not really. You know, nothing from nothing. Everything was normal. I was, you know, I'm sure I was going to probably, you know, have a rebound from it, you know, with all the bumps you take.
Right.
You know, so, but no, I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed doing it.
Right.
And my favorite thing of the whole move is that I guess I made it look okay where I never hurt nobody, you know, so.
Oh, it was a thing of beauty. I mean, it was one of those things, even as a kid, I was just sitting there going, oh, my God, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Well, how many times did we do the Alabama Jam off my granny's couch?
Oh, thousands.
Thousands of times.
Thousands of
times.
Right, yeah. By far, one of my favorite moves ever. Now, you know, that goes in the same next question. That goes in that same category. I don't remember you being off the road. Like, even like from when I was a kid all the way up until I started working, I remember you were working pretty regular. So I don't even know if this even applies. But what was one of the worst injuries? Or were you ever just injured to the point where you couldn't go, or you just kept going through the injuries? What was one of the worst injuries you ever had?
Well, one of my worst injuries, I guess, is when I think I was who I was working with. I can't think who it was, but anyway, I separated my shoulder, my right shoulder. And I had to take some time off for that. You know, I had to take a week off, you know.
Right.
5 days, you know.
Wow.
But that was, you know, so I just want you to give the guy a neck breaker, and some guys go left with it, some guys go right with it. And I always went to I'd go to my left, I'd face him, you know.
Right.
And then come over and then run back. But you know, it was just something so simple, and I heard it against Ricky Steamboat out of all people.
Right.
You know?
Wasn't Vader. Wasn't Vader. It was
No,
Steamboat.
no.
What was it like working with guys like Vader who were a little bit more stiff?
Well, I think it was all right. I didn't really work with him. I did a few run-ins with him, you know, and where either the babyface chased us off or whatever. But you know, I always liked Vader's work. You know.
He was believable, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, there was a reason why he was believable. You know?
Yeah, no kidding.
So, like, going back to when you were working for Bill Watts, he's notorious for fining guys for this or that. Did you ever get fined by Bill Watts?
By Bill, yeah, I was. Well, for me and Dennis and Corny first got signed with him, and I think it's 1983.
Yeah.
Or 82, whatever. But we went down and worked for him. We left Tennessee. He come and picked us out of the group. Jimmy's managing James and myself. So now he ran a pretty strict territory, and I liked it. You know.
Right.
Yeah. Were you ever fined by him? And do you have a reason why you might have been fined?
Yeah. Hell yeah. Bunch of times.
Just no real reason.
I mean,
he just hit you with a fine.
You never would know it. You get your check and the money's already gone.
That's awesome.
I've heard that Buddy Landell was probably the most fined of any of the guys.
Bad. I was in there with him. He's bad. Poor Buddy was bad. But that's the way Bill Watts ran his territory. You know,
right.
You ain't got no rules to break. Then you'll do anything.
Exactly.
You know.
Now, back then, did you prefer working heel or baby? Did you like to be the most beloved guy, or did you like to be the most hated guy?
Yeah, the heel. Yeah, I always liked that better.
Which is odd, because, you know, me and Josh grew up around the Midnight Express, and we loved the Midnight Express even when they were heels. And when you turned baby and were doing your singles matches in the early 90s, we were all on board.
Okay.
We thought, you know, as a babyface, we were like, oh yeah, that's the guy that does that cool move with the leg drop.
That's what we've been saying this whole time. I mean, come on.
Well, you know what the funny thing is, Bobby, when I first met you I was working on the indie circuit, and you came in and worked for a guy that wrestled that promoted shows out in Milan called Big Jim Business. His name was Ed. My first show that I worked there, you were on the card, and I had a total mark out moment where I walked up to you, and I was shaking a little bit. I was like 18, 19 years old, and I said, Mr. Eaton, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that match you had with Terry Taylor at Halloween Havoc 91 was not one of the best matches ever. And you looked at me and go, I think I remember it. But
they kind of run together when you're on the road every day, you know.
I learned that. People will bring up stuff, every once in a while. Don't get me wrong, I'm not tooting my own horn here by any means. I was a weekend warrior. But every once in a while somebody will bring up something that I've done, and I'm like, I don't even remember doing that. So I can't even imagine what that would be like for you.
Right. Well, when I first started doing the Alabama Gym thing, it was off the top rope. You couldn't do it off the top rope because it was just qualification for Jarrett and Nick Gillis. So I just come off the second rope, second turnbuckle.
Well, I remember when Bill Watts took over WCW and they made coming off the top rope illegal, and then they made it legal, but you couldn't do things like knee drops or something like that. And I remember I was like, Bobby has one of the best top rope knee drops in the business.
Exactly.
I mean, I think they even singled you out.
Yeah. Bill Watts likes to change the rules, like to make them, where if you broke them, you had to cheat to break them,
Right.
If he's a heel, and it made it better for the heels too to have to cheat.
So did you like those rules when they came into WCW where you could?
Yeah, I did like it, because, by all means, if I was going to do the leg jam off the top rope, I had Cornette or Dennis or Stan withdraw the referee, or the referee got bumped, didn't see it. I'd hit the back of the face, with a leg drop off the top rope.
Dennis and yourself, you started feuding with the Rock and Roll Express around when you got to Mid-South. Can you think of any other tag team that was more over with the fans? Just as far as being baby faces around that time?
No. Not as far as Ricky and Robert, no.
I know the Road Warriors turned face there in the end of the 80s, but I still think Ricky and Robert, they had something going on.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, it's true.
Here's something we were talking about earlier. You think it has to be in the cards for you and Dennis and possibly Stan to be put in the WWE Hall of Fame. It has to be.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Well, they say there is, but if they do it, I'm happy. If they don't, fine.
Well, it's probably like Kiss not being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for so long. Do you think that the Rock and Roll Express going in this year, do you think that kind of opens more doors for you guys to get the nod next year?
Well, it probably does, but since we were like heels, doing our heel moves and everything, and have Cornette as a manager, and I'm not for sure Cornette gets along with Vince or whoever up there,
Well,
so I don't know.
They did bring Cornette back to induct the Rock and Roll, Rock and Roll
right.
Express. So I think it's probably one of the biggest slights in the business that you guys aren't already in.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Jimmy knows how to, he knows what to do, So.
You guys went to World Class for a bit. You got any good Von Erich stories?
No, not really. We worked with all of them, and it was a short territory. We only was there like 6 or 7 months, something like that. Because we were already going over to Crockett's, for Mid-Atlantic thing.
You guys had already worked the deal out to go.
No, we hadn't went over there yet, but we were heading that way when they said, no, you need to go over here for Fritz Von Erich for a few months and see how it worked out, and it didn't really work out for us,
Yeah.
Because we already had our mind set on going over to WCW or whatever, NWA. So,
who would you say was the best Von Erich out of all the brothers, as far as just being a in-ring performer?
Well, probably Kevin Von Erich. Probably would be the one most people say anyway, but I like working with all of them, so.
I always heard, that David, at some point, they were thinking he would be, an NWA champion at some point, but that was cut short.
I heard that too, I heard that same thing.
Now, you've worked all over the place. You've worked in just about every territory. What was your favorite area to work in? Did you like working back in the South area, or did you prefer like working somewhere like Japan or somewhere in the West or in Texas? Or what was your favorite area?
I always liked working just about everywhere. One of my favorite places to work, a couple of places, was Baltimore and Philadelphia. That was that's some really good turnouts there for crowd-wise.
It's funny you say Philadelphia because Halloween Havoc 90 was in Philadelphia, I believe, and you guys were the heels, like you and Stan and Jim, and I thought it was hilarious that you got a bigger crowd than the Steiner brothers even. Everybody was cheering you guys.
That's what I remember that, Well, that's the whole time people are changing what they saw wrestling anyway. They didn't just see it right. They knew who was actually doing most of the work. I'm not saying most of the work, but who was supposed to be doing most of the work.
Right.
Was Dennis and me and Dennis and Stan, me and Stan.
Speaking of Philadelphia, you and Arn had a match or two in ECW, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
How was working for ECW?
I liked it. I like working for ECW.
Yeah, good crowds, real loud.
Yeah. I always liked working for them. I always got along with Paulie, So.
What would you say the schedule was like whenever you guys went to work for Jim Crockett compared to Bill Watts' schedule, just the road schedule?
Yeah, well, it was hard working for one, especially because you drove just about everywhere. They wouldn't fly us. Sometimes they fly us to Oklahoma City and Tulsa that same day. They do one in Oklahoma City in the afternoon or at night, one of them, I'm not sure. But anyway, same day. They give us a little money for trip if we had to fly. Because it's just kind of hard to make it. It's hard to make that shot because, you're putting up your weight, all too much traveling.
Now, I remember when I was younger, I remember there was this young team that was starting to form. It was like a faction, and it was headed up by Paul E. Dangerously. It was in WCW, and they were starting to recruit guys. They had Steve Austin, they had Rick Rude, they had Larry Zbyszko, they had all these guys, and I remember there was a match that you and Dustin Rhodes were taking on some members of this Dangerous Alliance, is what they were calling themselves. And I remember you tagged in at the last moment and gave Dustin a shoulder breaker, shattering my heart and Dustin's shoulder at the same time. Now, who approached you with that to say, hey, how would you like to be a part of this elite group, which I think was probably one of the most underrated factions ever?
Yeah, well, Dusty was a booker at the time too, and he was a real smart guy, so he approached me there. I wasn't really going nowhere as a babyface at the time. Then I put Arn and me together, and then they put the Dangerous Alliance together, and then we just had the Dangerous Alliance. Well, I liked it well.
Being in the business for so long, what was one of the best ribs that you were ever a part of there, or you saw happen?
Well, best ribs? One of them was when I got a pretty weak stomach anyway, so we were traveling down the road somewhere. I'm not sure where it was, but Arn had a little deal. He used to do like he'd pack up, like a loogie or whatever, and show it to you. I didn't like it anyways. And then I tried to do it to him one day. I finally I could do it. I was thinking, well, I got to try to get back to him. When I did, I threw up all over his chest, and everything. He was driving his actual car, Well, that's pretty good, rib. It wasn't a rib, but everybody thinks it was, but it wasn't.
Right. Well, Bobby, I want to say thank you once again for being a part of P3 Radio. It's been great having you. Sure to be a future Hall of Famer. Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful Bobby Eaton.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining us on P3 Radio right now. He's done just about everything in the wrestling business there is to do. He's been a promoter. He's been a manager for one of the greatest wrestlers ever, and also a good friend of Bobby Eaton's. We have none other than Brian Thompson. Brian, how's it going, my friend?
Man, things are wonderful. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Of course, like I said before, Josh had to call in sick today, and, I'm here flying solo, and I'm just a little nervous. We're on autopilot, and I'm hoping to not
right
John
on.
Denver this thing, so
hello.
We'll probably cut that out. You never know. But anyways, man, we were talking a little bit before we started recording today, and we were talking about Bobby doing interviews, and Bobby, one of the nicest guys in the world. And I think I mentioned to you that you could tell in that interview that he didn't want to just say, hey, man, I'm tired, I want to go. He was trying to be nice, and he was just like, hey, guys, just call me back tomorrow, which we had fun with, because it's like, can you imagine, like, the President of the United States going up there? Well, I guess you could now, but could you imagine somebody in a high-ranking authority just going, I'm tired of this press conference. Let's just do it again tomorrow. Bobby's Bobby.
That clip right there, that soundbite is Bobby to a T. That's the definition of him. He's just a regular cat, and very humble, the most humble individual,
right,
of a name value that I've ever dealt with in professional wrestling. So that makes total sense. Yeah, we were winding around some pretty intense mountains at that particular point in time.
Right.
So
yeah, I just had to laugh because, like I said, and you said we weren't his only interview that day, right?
Oh no, usually I set him up, and he's not Mr. Promo as it is, and never was, and although he's better than he gives himself credit for, but
right,
he's a few minutes in. He usually a lot of times we'll be together when he's doing one, and he'll kind of give me the look at the watch, the eyes, like how much longer is this thing going to go? And then one time he just basically abruptly told the guys, "Well, guys, I'll talk to you later." In the middle, more or less the middle of the thing. I mean, it was quite a ways into it. Let me preface that by saying it's probably 20 or 30 minutes in, and they were going longer than we anticipated. So he just kind of gave him the old Iggy, goodbye, boys.
And the greatest thing about Bobby is I have talked to him in a social situation in the back. He's he doesn't have a lot of words, but he's funny. He's talkative. He's very he's more energetic than what he is usually in interviews. I think he just gets a little nervous in interviews, and I think we shot in this interview that we just heard. I think we probably threw out about 40 questions, and usually you would have Bobby going into a little bit more detail, and I think just the nervousness of having to actually sit here and be interviewed by these two guys that he doesn't know and doesn't know what they do. I think he was He didn't clam up, but I think he was just like, all right, let's do this. Let's move on to the next question.
Yeah, he's just he doesn't realize, I think, how much respect he has out there and in the wrestling business. And it was ironic that it was timed right before WrestleCade, and once we got there, and he would run into different people, just how other big names in the business would just come up and big hug, handshake, little clowning around, and they were just excited to see him. And his health has improved in the last year or so, and so happy to see that. So he's just not really he doesn't say a whole lot. He always did his talking in the ring. That was always the thing. And so when you mentioned talking to Golden Boy Greg Anthony, so once we had the Midnight Gold, we came up with the perfect way to get Bobby to say something. Greg would always lay it out, his spiel, as good as, and then Bobby would say gold. So I could get him to get the one word out there. I said, Bobby, all I need is the word gold. And so
oh man,
we worked with it. But if you go YouTube, him cutting promos in Chattanooga, he was actually pretty decent. But when he was having to do that in his early days, what happened was, being the humble individual that he is he started having managers who couldn't do the things in the ring that obviously Bobby could do.
Oh, yeah.
He realized that the money for them was the ability to talk and cut promos and draw heat that way. So he let them have all that glory, and he just kind of did his thing in the ring. So it's a perfect blend, whether it was Jimmy Hart, Jim Cornette, Paulie Dangerously, doesn't matter. He was always the action in the ring, and they were the get you mad at him to get him to the ring. So
how did you meet Bobby? What led y'all to start working together and be friends?
Sure. 2001, I had a tryout when back in the day, it wasn't WWE or WWF at the time, did not have an NXT in their own internal developmental system. They contracted it out. They had Ohio Valley Wrestling, of course, in Louisville, and also a developmental territory in Memphis Championship Wrestling. And they also worked with Power Pros. So anyway, long story short, I lucked into a tryout with Memphis Championship Wrestling, and at the same time, Bobby was debuting as a trainer with WWF and for the guys in Memphis at the time. And so I met him on my tryout weekend. It was Ripley and Covington, Tennessee, were the two towns we had that I was at. I had to basically had those 2 nights, a Friday, Saturday. I can't remember which town was which night, but those were the 2 towns. And so I get there, and I was excited when I heard Bobby was coming in, and just even whether or not I ended up getting the gig with MCW or not, I was excited to meet him, one of my favorites growing up. And so I went up and, I introduced myself, and he goes, "I'm Bobby Eaton." And I go, "Yes, sir, I know."
Right. Well,
a funny moment.
Well, for guys like us that watched Bobby, for some reason or another, even if you were a marky mark like I was when I was a kid watching him, and you were supposed to hate him because he's in the Dangerous Alliance and he's just this bad guy, you couldn't help but like him. He was just so talented that he curved that line between bad and good, and you were just like, he's bad, but I got to respect him because he's probably one of the best wrestlers in the ring right now.
Sure, and you, to a T, you ask any of the guys from back in the 80s, they rank Bobby up in their top, 5 or 10. Some rank him as high as 1, 2, or 3, and they say because he had the ability every night of the week to go out and help produce a different style match, whereas some will tell you that the Ric Flairs and certain others had the same carbon copy match per se. Yes, it worked, but they'll tell you night after night. Shane Douglas is a huge, obviously, friend and fan of Bobby.
Right.
In general, he talks about it all the time, about the things Bobby can do as far as in the ring and produce night after night a different caliber of match. And not, you could basically tour with the NWA and see a different match every night of the week. So absolutely.
Right.
But he's just so humble. I mean, that is the thing I took from him is, as you're getting up in the business, I mean, I said, man, this guy has no ego whatsoever. And if anybody truly deserved to have one, he certainly, could lay claim to that and be a jerk. And you just kind of like, well, he's earned his right to be kind of this way. But
exactly,
man, he treats the world's heavyweight champion with the same respect as the guy selling popcorn or the guy cleaning up after the matches. I mean, he is the model, in my opinion, one of the models to follow, to keep grounded and remember, we all bleed the same,
right.
same color blood.
Well,
and, I always took that from him.
I think I told you of the story a couple months back when we were talking about getting Bobby on the show. MCW came to Jackson, Tennessee's Omen Arena. We went. We were hardcore wrestling fans. We'd been watching since the time we were in diapers all the way up, and Bobby Eaton was one of our favorites. So we were at MCW, and guys were coming out to the curtain, and we would cheer, "Hey, hey, hey!" They would just look at us and go, "Hey, watch the match, kids." All right, we got a few pictures with some guys that were starting up. I think Lance Cade and a couple of those guys like that. But we went to the back, right where the dressing room was, and we saw Bobby Eaton about 30 yards away. Me and my buddy Josh and a couple of our other buddies just started going, "Bobby, Bobby, Bobby," and he just kind of waved. And he kind of smiled, and we just all started chanting, "Alabama Jam, Alabama Jam." And to his credit, Bobby smiled, shook hands with whoever he was talking to, which was way more important than these teenagers, walks over and takes a picture with us. Now, he did the "My Name is Earl" with his eyes closed in the picture, and it was a very horrible picture. But
the days before you had the cell phone technology, you could reshoot it immediately, Was that probably 2001 maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, that would have been 2001. I was working for the company then, I was there. I was probably, at that time they had me, on the big shows. I didn't get to get in the ring. I was always, I had to pay the dues a little more.
Right.
And I got to sell magazines and other merchandise at those. I finally, toward the end of the run, I got to get in the ring and do one little thing. But anyway, I have other stories like that. Even in MCW early days, of knowing him personally, there was a little kid in a wheelchair and then wanted some pictures, and he had the entire crew come out and shoot with a picture with them. So of course, obviously, Bobby goes and makes that request. It happens. We were at a festival in Arkansas years ago. I was with my shoot job helping do some kid games, and there was a kid that wanted to have, it was like 50 cents a ticket or something, and some little kid didn't have the money, so he pulls out $5 and gives it to the kids. I mean, that's his nature. And Cornette, there's a good audio clip on YouTube if you track it down of Cornette talking about the times when Bobby somebody would tell him a homeless story or whatever, and next thing you know, 30 minutes later, here comes Bobby with the guy, around it, hanging out, buddies, arms around each other, and the guy's got a big old grocery sack full of items. So,
well, even
that's him, man. That is him.
Golden Boy was talking about having Bobby's grocery sack, mystery grocery sack of goodies that he carried around.
My gosh!
And I've heard Cornette talk about it as well. I mean,
it exists. I used to joke with him when we would travel, because we've traveled all over the world. It feels like 28 states is what I've been in wrestling in my career, and most of that has been with Bobby and because of Bobby. But I used to joke with him instead of, if it was over, one night shot or even going to town and driving home, he would carry like all these bags. I'm like, Bobby, we might as well just get a U-Haul and put the stuff in a U-Haul and just have access to the, whatever, because he would just carry everything. He wanted to be, as Cornette is saying that deal, he wanted to be prepared. Any number of things. If he needed to complete brain surgery on the spot, he had the tools and was ready to do it. So,
that's
Bobby.
Is it just a preparation thing, or do you think he's harboring some hoarder-type tendencies or some trust issues? I can't leave my stuff here. Okay, somebody's going to steal it. Did he grow up in a bad neighborhood?
Well, he grew up in some, he grew up in poor conditions and stuff like that, so I don't know if that has a little bit to it, but I would actually lean more to the always, it wants to be prepared for any and all situations that could happen and exist. I don't know that, he doesn't have to take everything with him, but he has to take the essential things that, again, as life on the road could come up, scissors and sewing, kit. I mean, you name it, it's going to be in that bag. And so the Steiners were really bad about playing ribs on him to say, hey, we're trying to come up with the off-the-wall things, and pretty much he would have it.
So you're telling me that he probably has every Boy Scout badge ever if he would have been in the Boy Scouts?
Probably.
But that's good. That's good to be prepared. Man, Bobby is one of the nicest guys, so you can't say anything. Even talking about him being in the Boy Scouts right there would just made me feel like, maybe I shouldn't say that. It's kind of like...
But see, everybody picks on him. I mean, once you get to know him, I'm always trying to find ways to pick at him on the road, to make the trips go by more quickly. And the wrestlers are always, everybody has to, of course, poor fella, he's got a weak stomach. It's notorious. He told you the Arn Anderson story, but he's you know, he's one of those type you could don't even have the conversation about something gross and his stomach starts turning a little bit, you know, which is amazing. You wouldn't think it. And so, yeah, if you just start talking about something super gross and, yeah, Bobby, this or that happened, he's like, shut up. Like, it's just going to make him, you know, start feeling sick, so.
So that's his kryptonite is gross, disgusting stuff.
Yeah. all this and more coming soon in the Bobby Eaton biography to be written by yours truly one of these days. Been working on it for years.
Steve Austin brings him up a lot, like on the podcast and in his book, and credits him with being one of the best. Now, we talked about him keeping his cool, being one of the nicest people, and Golden Boy told me a story. It was the only time he had heard of him losing his cool. Have you ever seen Bobby getting hot at anything or anybody?
A time or two, but, you know, nothing. The other person is at fault.
Yeah.
I mean, typically, and usually it's something where you think somebody, you know, might be taking advantage of a friend or a family member or something like that. He might get a little agitated.
Right.
You know, that sort of thing.
Bobby's in good health, doing good. Last year, I remember there was something going on where we couldn't find him for a little bit. And everybody
Atlanta.
It was in Atlanta, right.
Atlanta. Well, I mean, just to preface, yeah, I'll go ahead. I don't mind mentioning a little bit. You know, with some of his health issues, it was really more of a concern because he had lost his phone.
Right.
And no way of getting in contact with him. And so, you know, let's face it, it's 2017 going on 2018. It's a scary world out there. So I was scheduled to pick him up at St. Louis Airport at a certain time, and we talked. He had missed a flight because of a connecting issue, and so, you know, he's going to have to stay extended hours in an airport and then have to try to make the next one. And so he was supposed to call me back and tell me his next flight, and that never materialized because he lost his phone and, you know, wasn't sure how to get, you know, and then also was thinking that maybe I was showing up in, you know, at the airport or whatever the case may be. So a little bit of confusion there, you know, and so not knowing, not being able to track him down, my first thought was, well, let's use the power, let's test and use the power of social media.
Right.
And dude, my day was shot. As soon as that message came out, my phone's ringing. I mean, I, you know, named people in the business calling. The Rock tweeted out about him, and just knowing, you know, knowing some of the health issues he had dealt with, and, you know, his sugar had dropped in the past. So, I mean, did that happen as he, you know, fell out in a bathroom, a restaurant, you know, any number of things going through my mind. Knowing he had cash on him from a payoff that weekend, did you know, Atlanta's a big airport.
Yeah.
Did he get pulled over in a corner and a couple of guys decided to, you know, we're going to rob this dude that's got some cash on him? So, you know, at the end of the day, it was I don't want to call it a false alarm, but we just we did what we needed to, I did, and everybody else did what we felt was necessary to make sure he was found. And so it was a long day, but he ended up being okay and got fortunately Sigmund and some folks happened to be passing through, and were able to connect up. And, of course, me not being a next of kin, talking to the airport and getting any kind of real response was not happening.
Right.
So it was like, you know, and then trying not to alarm his family. So really we're kind of in a weird spot. And, again, when I got here, he's like, hey, guys. They're like, you're missing. He's like, I am?
Yeah. Because
he had no clue that you know, there was a chaos and calamity. He just knew he didn't have his phone. So he was okay. It just, you know, we had no way of good communication, and it led to about 24 hours of chaos.
Well, I remember when I first saw that Facebook post, I immediately got worried. And I stalked your Facebook for the rest of the day, and I didn't know what to do. I felt helpless. I was like, well, I'm just gonna keep checking and see if they find him, because in my mind, you know, I come from that very guilty Southern, everything's the worst case possible scenario.
Sure.
And I think in my mind I had heard the story that he was confused, lost, we didn't know what was going on, and we don't know where he's at, and it could be a medical problem. And in my mind, like, oh God, you know, please don't let this be happening, because
we didn't want the bad result that we sometimes hear. And with things like having diabetes and some of those heart issues, it affects your mind and stuff like that sometimes. And guys get, you know, I don't want to say not dizzy, but I mean, you get kind of out of, so especially when that sugar really messes with you, that will jack with your system.
Oh, yes.
And now, again, I've lost my phone, all these different things. So, yeah, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. And then not knowing, I thought he was in Atlanta, but there was some thought that maybe he was still in Charlotte, never made the connection to Atlanta. So we never really, for a time it was, we didn't know where. And then somebody had actually thought he was Bobby Heenan. And then posted a picture of Bobby eating at a restaurant in Atlanta and posted that on Twitter. And so we're just trying to track that dude down and say, hey, when was this? Where was it? Blah, 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 blah. Well, fortunately, another wrestler in the business happened to recognize the backdrop of that particular restaurant and knew that was Atlanta Airport. So we did, it was like playing,
where in the world is Carmen San Diego? But where in the world is Bobby Eaton?
Yeah, and he really didn't like to talk about the whole situation,
right.
Again, because it was just a combination of, all the dumb luck things that could happen, and
right.
it led to probably a bigger story than it, ended up truly being. But you never can be too careful in that situation. I wasn't just going to wait around. Well, maybe he'll call me in about 12 hours. I was like, well, let's put it out there and see what we can get. So surely somebody, and then you don't know. I mean, he's so nice. Maybe a couple of fans pick him up and he rides off with them. So all these different scenarios.
I guess the worst case scenario there, if he got in the car with somebody, it becomes like a Silence of the Lambs type thing. It's like Bobby is somewhere in a pit and putting lotion on him, confused.
Wow.
Which is a funny thought.
Well, we can laugh about it now.
Yes,
more so.
exactly.
At the time, yeah, it was frightening. But, looking back, it's kind of like a little, the ha-ha-ha thing. So.
Right. It's always better to look back and go, that's hilarious now in hindsight, than to look at it as another wrestling tragedy. And I will say kudos to you, because it could have easily turned into something like that, I think. I don't think, like I said, I think knowing now everything was fine, but anytime something like that happens, I think people sit back and don't take the offense and say, oh, he'll call me in 12 hours. And things have happened.
Well, I tag over to Sigmund too for, he was on his way he lives in Florida, and he happened to be going that direction and was willing to step up. A couple other folks, James Strange from East Tennessee, that he passed the airport. He was in transit on a trip he had to do. So everybody really, played a part in the whole, let's figure this situation out. And, it was just quite the intriguing day. So, I just appreciate everybody. Also, another thing, a little sidebar, it just shows how much people loved him. If I go back and look at stats, man, those posts were seen by thousands of people.
Right.
Like I said, The Rock was tweeting about it. I think Shane McMahon, Tommy Dreamer called. I mean, it was just like, the whole wrestling community for a short period, went all up in arms to try to make something, make sure he was okay. And there was a couple of idiots that was like, is this, some kind of a rib or what? Like, no, dude, look, you don't know, shut your freaking mouth, and we're trying to find somebody here who's had some health issues. We don't know what the situation is, good, bad, or indifferent. I'd rather freak out and be okay than, like you said, not do anything and then get bad news. So
exactly. Well, I think you handled it well. To kind of take things to a positive note, you said he's in good health. He's kind of retired right now, right? He's doing signings and interviews and talking, but is he still wrestling?
Yeah, he hasn't. No, he doesn't. He hasn't wrestled. He did a one-time return match. He wrestled Ricky Morton about 2 years ago in Tennessee, close to where Ricky's school is, and we did a little spot where I joke with him about this. We did an angle where I managed, so we kept it good. He didn't have to do anything too off the wall, blah blah blah, I'd interfere, yada yada. And I get in, and of course, I'm telling him to use these nuts on Ricky, and he's refusing to accept the weapon to do it. And so I slap him in the face. He pushes me. Ricky rolls me up, and they count me down. So I took the loss in the actual match. But of course, as listeners hear this, it'll be past this. But he's wrestling as of December 2nd. He's actually refereeing a match. Bill Dundee and Jerry Lawler are tagging against a couple of guys, and Bobby's the referee in Gallatin, Tennessee. So he's still making sporadic appearances.
Right.
Did the thing at WrestleCade a couple weekends ago. So, he's still able to sign autographs. Like I said, as far as health, he's doing better than he's been in a while. We were actually, had a lot of ER trips a few years back, but I think we're about to roll over 3 straight years without having any of those. So, that's
Well,
an
that's
accomplishment considering some of the health issues he had for a time. So I'm proud of him, and looking forward to seeing him again. I don't have any set dates yet, but one or two will pop up next spring, and we'll hit the road again. The Adventures of Brian and Bob.
Now, I won't ask you to give away any insider information if you know anything, but feel free to use our show as a platform if you know any inside information here. What do you think is the likelihood, if not this year, it's got to be soon, and this is something we even asked Bobby, what do you think the likelihood of this year, if not in the next 5 years, that you see the Midnight Express and Bobby Eaton go into the WWE Hall of Fame?
Oh, as far as in the next 5 years, strong likelihood. And I think I think last year kind of set that stage when you had the Rock and Roll Express. Two things. When you had the Rock and Roll Express inducted and them being inducted by Jim Cornette. So I think it opened some doors and reestablished some relationships there that, Cornette is very opinionated. I always enjoy it, and 99% of the time I agree with him, quite frankly. But, he's been outspoken against WWE and some of the things he doesn't agree with, and he's in a position where he doesn't have to worry about, minding any kind of P's and Q's. He's done well and continues to do well. So anyway, long story short, with last year, I think that opened some doors, whereas you might have thought, it's never going to happen because of this. I think now it's very likely, and as far as, I don't know anything, so I haven't been told, but I would say, within the next 5 years, surely. I can't see why not. Now, of course, this upcoming WrestleMania is in New Orleans, which is where the original formation happened in that territory of Mid-South. So I'm not speculating anything, but I mean, as far as a location, next year's a pretty good one. But whether or not that's there, maybe they wait till they go back to Atlanta since that's WCW territory, and with Crockett Promotions, and then later WCW. So. Anyway, that's a long way around saying, yes, I think they will eventually be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, and probably within the next 5 years. So,
and you'll have those people that look at it and go, well, like with Sting going in, they'll say, well, Sting never wrestled a WWE. Well, he only wrestled like 2 WWF matches.
Right.
And I'm like, well, look at it this way. WWF is pretty much everything globally now except for New Japan.
That's it.
So, I mean, you're looking at wrestling in general. So if they own the library, you count it. You have to.
The WWE Hall of Fame is an industry-wide recognition. I mean, you could argue, depending on how you want to look at it, yes, he had a great run there in his latter years, but even Flair, his best years, his prime years were in NWA, WCW. Dusty Rhodes, I mean, the list goes on and on of great talents that are in there that did some of their bigger work elsewhere, not under the WWE umbrella. So it may be called WWE Hall of Fame, but it's Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame under that organization. So they are the keepers of our wrestling history now, right? Whether we like it or we don't like it, we really do have to learn to love it, as Ric Flair says.
Well, Brian, man, I'm not going to hold you up any longer today, man. I want to just say thank you. We're definitely going to have you back on. Do you have anything coming up? I know you're a busy man. I follow your Facebook, like I said, so I see that this was one of the first weekends that you've had free. Now, do you have anything coming up this weekend or next weekend? What you got going on, man?
Man, I'm actually, I call myself semi-retired now from as far as taking outside bookings. I mean, that's not to say I won't do one or two here and there. But I had been working for Harley Race's World League Wrestling pretty actively, a group called High Risk Wrestling, and just sporadic other independent dates. But I've kind of scaled back to focus on Ringside Championship Wrestling again. I've run a couple times this year, and I want to kind of pick up that schedule a little bit and then, focus in and then, have a life. I'm getting kind of old, man. I need to find my next wife. But long story short, RCW, it's, you can learn more about it at facebook.com/RCW Ringside. We have shows, have one scheduled in this part of the country, Richland, Missouri on March 3rd, and then hopefully some more from there. So, TV show that's out there on the High Spots Wrestling Network and some local cable. So, check us out on Facebook. That's probably the best way to find us, and hopefully you might see something you enjoy and want to. If you're listening and you're in this area or something, you might want to come check it out. So.
Well, man, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. Like I said, but go check out that RCW when they're in your area. If you're in that area, it's definitely worth the trip to come see them too. So if you're not in the area, go see it. Great shows. Brian Thompson, thank you again, man, for being a part of P3 Radio.
Sounds good. Appreciate you guys.
well, that song means we are absolutely all out of time.
We'd like to thank everybody for listening to today's episode. And please join us on Facebook at Pop Poncho.
Or text or call us at 731-300-MORE. That's 731-300-6675.
Well, thanks once again. And for Josh Briley, I am Richard Mulligan saying thanks and good night.
It's the end of the show. P3 Radio.